Thank you very much, Gareth, and also to all my comrades for organising this really brilliant event. I've been on since the beginning, and I've really had the privilege of listening to everybody's speeches, and it's incredibly inspiring to be here today. And I want to say what a privilege it is to be on the same platform as Lee. Lee came to visit the European Parliament in October last year. We met together, and there was also at that meeting somebody working in media and journalism. And Lee, you were brave enough to be in a photograph with me, but I do remember that the journalist was too afraid, and also felt that if he was in a photograph that he wouldn't be able to continue his work anymore. And I just want to say that the fact that you continue to speak out, to be on a public platform, to be present today is really, really important. You're incredibly brave. When you were talking about the numbers of people imprisoned currently in Hong Kong, I began to think about how the situation in Turkey, with so many people who stand against the regime in Turkey, have found themselves in prison, from academics to journalists to opposition politicians to public servants. And so we're facing a similar situation, I think. I also come with solidarity from other former MEPs, Jude Curtin-Darling, Theresa Griffin and Richard Corbett all send their best wishes and solidarity to you. And it was interesting that Gareth should talk about my work in arts and culture, and Paul made really good statements about, you know, the links, the people-to-people links that we must have. And in the constituency that I represented, Bury Museum and Art Gallery actually had a really ambitious, visionary, very broad-ranging relationship with Chinese culture, and we have many Chinese communities in our cities, and so I think we've got to make it absolutely clear that people-to-people contact is important. And I've heard the call today about us having a workers' movement and worker solidarity, that I think we really need to build on a youth movement here as well, because so many young people are connected, and they're connected through their studies. I know, Gareth, this is your interest in the subject, but university courses here in the UK have large Chinese and Hong Kong student populations, and many of our universities have campuses in China. So we've got to make sure that we're really linking up young people and getting them on board with our campaign. I think I wanted to talk a little bit about European policies here, and lots of people would say, well, this is just a British issue, isn't it? In the same way that they might say that about Kashmir or Palestine. But this is not just a British issue, it's an international issue, and because it's an international issue, it's a European issue. And I was really proud that the European Parliament Human Rights Subcommittee took this up over a year ago, and we adopted a European Parliament resolution on the 18th of July last year that, and I'm reading from the resolution now, strongly condemns the constant and increasing interference by China in Hong Kong's internal affairs. So this is very important. This was a year ago that this happened, and in that resolution noted particular people who were being attacked. So Agnes Chow talked about, continued to call for the release of the book publisher Gui Minhai, and that is it's one of the things that happens in European parliamentary resolutions is that they're often very concrete. They talk about really urgent human rights violations and people who are at risk and names them. So I'm proud that we did that over a year ago. In September, We had a debate because all summer the protests continued. And in September, I used my platform in the European Parliament and in the debate to read the open letter that Pete Radcliffe and many people who have organised today created. And that open letter was really the launch of the campaign. It got the campaign really going, and it was important to read that letter because that letter talked about the Cathay Pacific airline workers. It talked about the names of the union leaders, Rebecca Sy, and the City Legislative Council member Jeremy Tam. And I continue to say that we must be specific and concrete in the work that we do. Joshua Wong appeared at the Human Rights Subcommittee video link in December 2019, and the Parliament has spoken about the Uyghur detention camps and had a resolution condemning these in December 2019. So the European Parliament and the European institutions have been doing quite a lot on this. MEPs know since Brexit, I continue to follow this, even though I'm not an MEP anymore. And on June the 19th, so just a month ago, MEPs called on the European Union to consider a lawsuit against China over Hong Kong, suggested that the Union could file a case before the International Court of Justice, alleging that China's decision to impose national security legislation on Hong Kong violates the Sino-British Joint Declaration and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. So as a result of MEPs, and MEPs voted for this, so now Josep Borrell, who's the High Representative, has to consider this. He's got to think about this. He's got to make a response to it. And the President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has also been forced into making some statements to say that yes, she's got to think about this too. That she has to take a position on this. So that's where the EU is currently. On a personal level, I just wanted to say that I received WhatsApp messages directly from within the Polytechnic when the Polytechnic was under siege. These were WhatsApp messages from young people who literally were fearing for their life. They had stayed in the Polytechnic building in order to visit the library, in order to do some work, and suddenly found themselves completely surrounded by police with live ammunition, burning barricades. Their parents, who came to plead for them, were also subjected to violence and detention. And the messages that I received on WhatsApp from these students were literally terrifying. These students were frightened that of the immediate threat to their lives and liberty, but they were also very, very afraid that they might be disappeared. The situation, as far as I can see, is extremely serious, and we have to stand up for the next generation. And I was very glad that I think it was Nadia talked about people who were born who won't have recourse, who were born later and won't have recourse to that extended welcome for British citizenship. Maybe just mention one more final thing, which is through Hong Kong Watch, there is an international lifeboat campaign for Hong Kong, which is an international initiative to make sure that lots of countries will hold out the hand of friendship and welcome to people in Hong Kong who might suddenly find themselves under duress, under attack, or at risk of being silenced. I can put a link up to that in the chat box rather than talk about it more here. So thanks very much for inviting me to speak, and I stand in solidarity with all of you.